Okay, let's talk about the redistricting effort that was made this last year. I was very involved in the process with my wife. We attended several school board meetings. We wrote lengthy emails to city councilors and school board members, all to no avail, and extremely little response. Here's my problem with it. For those of you that weren't involved in this, what basically happened was that the Skillen School out by the mall in that area has too many kids in it, okay? And the Kaler School here in town didn't have enough. Dyer, Brown, and Small were about right, okay? So we've got 3 schools with just the right amount of kids, 1 school with not enough, and 1 school with too many. Now, I know I'm just an old Maine Yankee here. It seemed to me that at least one thing that could be considered was to take new kids that are moving into the Skillen School area and move them over to the Kaler School, and not have to disrupt all 5 schools, which in fact was just done, in the recent past. It was done again, okay? So now what was decided was that we would pull kids from all 5 schools, redistrict them with, I guess it was an advisory, the committee that worked very hard on this, and I am not denigrating what they did. But here's the end result. At the end result, there was 140 kids, take, and I may be off on that number now because it did change at the very end a little bit. You got ripped away from their schools and all their friends and moved over to another school. And ultimately that's not a horrible thing. That happened to my kids. And they went from Dyer School over to Brown School. And Brown is a fantastic school. I mean, it's not like my child is going to get a bad education at Brown School by any stretch. I mean, the principals is great, all the teachers are great, and he loves it. So we are not negatively impacted by this. What bothered me and my wife was that the process was a joke, okay? Now, if you have kids in school, especially of an elementary school, you know that there's a sheet that comes home almost daily with anything newsworthy. It could be Arbor Day. It could be Whoopie Pie Day. It doesn't make any difference what day it is. They let you know about it, and we appreciate that. We really do. They really work hard to keep the parents involved. But in the case of redistricting, it didn't occur to anybody. I mean, it's just a small thing. We're going to take your kid out of one school, away from all his friends he's had for 2 years, and move him over to another school arbitrarily. It didn't occur to anyone to let the parents know through an already well-established means of communication, which is the little folder, which comes home every day, okay? So when we got involved, it was very late in the process. There was probably only a month or so left, and we were led to believe that the meetings with the school board were going to be, they're a place where dialogue would take place, and we could talk about options, and as a group come to a conclusion about what would be the best thing to do. Well, clearly that wasn't the case, because I can guarantee you that long before these meetings began, the toothpaste was out of the tube, or as one of the counselors was very fond of saying, the train is already on the tracks. And what that means is that it was essentially a waste of time for anybody who was involved to go to these meetings. I would have much more respect for the school board and the superintendent if they had just grown a backbone and stood up and said, listen folks, this is a hard thing for us to do. We know that it impacts you and you're not happy. But you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to tie this in with the budget and then let the people vote on it. So your input, while we understand you want to give it, is not going to have any effect on what we decide to do. Now, I wouldn't have liked that answer, okay? It would have fried my you-know-what, but I would have respected it. What I didn't respect was going to all these meetings and writing 1,000-word emails and getting no response, and at the end of it, realizing that I had just wasted several nights of my life and dozens of hours of angst trying to be involved, when in fact, you know, it was a farce, okay? Now again, I just need to stress, it doesn't mean the people on the school board are bad people. They got locked into a process. Mrs. Godin brought this idea forward, and maybe she believes it was the best thing to do. I don't think she's a bad person. I mean, she's bright, right? I mean, she's got a PhD. She's got to be smarter than me, okay? But the plan that she put forward was unnecessarily complicated. It didn't need to be done the way it did, and at the end of the day, it hasn't solved a thing. Because at the last school board meeting, we heard parents from Skillen School standing up again and saying, my second grade son is in a classroom with 25 kids in it. Okay? Skillen School is already at capacity again. You know, there are a lot of apartments out there. A lot of people are moving in out there, and there are more kids out in that area all the time. This plan didn't solve a damn thing. All it did was rip a bunch of kids out of the school and away from teachers that they were very comfortable with, based on, you know, multi-premises. One was the free school lunch program. We've got to reorganize all the schools, so all the schools, they're essentially the same level of kids getting free lunch or reduced lunches, okay? Social engineering, okay? And I really have no beef with the concept of doing that, except in the end, that didn't even happen. And if you want the numbers about all the kids in all of the schools that get free or reduced lunch, I'd be happy to give them to you, okay? It's ridiculous. That was not the case. It didn't happen. It was a red herring, as they say. So, look, I could rant on about this all day long, and I'm in a no-win sort of situation here, because it's going to appear that I'm ragging on Mrs. Godin and the people on the school board, and I guess to some degree that's true. I wish that I knew them better than on a personal level, but I don't. I don't doubt their intentions are good. I can tell you this, their process is horrible, and it's evidenced. By the way, those school board meetings were run, and by the way, they continue to be run. Going to a school board meeting now, okay, is like calling the cable company because your cable is working. And this has nothing to do with Time Warner, by the way. I picked it out of the air. So Time Warner, don't sue me, okay? So you call the cable company, right, and you talk to them for 5 minutes on the phone, because that's exactly the time you get at a school board meeting to make your point, okay? And you talk to them, you know, succinctly and passionately about what your problem is, and at the end of 5 minutes, they say, thank you for calling, and hang up. Now, how many of you would like that? I mean, I'd be at the cable company 2 minutes later talking to somebody face to face if that happened to me. But at the school board meetings, that happens all the time. You're allowed to stand up, speak your piece for 5 minutes. They look at you. Actually, they don't look at you, especially if you're not happy with them. They look away. They refuse to answer any questions, and then they tell you to sit down. So you tell me, why should I go to a school board meeting as it's presently run right now? You know what? And none of the counselors really speak at a school board meeting, at least not the one I went to. Now, the one I saw last week, there was a little bit going on, but there are 7 people on the school board. I think I've only ever heard 3 of them speak. I don't know what the other 4 believe. I'm sure they're great people. They love the kids. They love the community. I never hear them speak. I have no idea what they think. And I can promise you this. If you, by some, you know, break in the time continuum, I get elected to the school board, you'll always know what I think. And if you stand up and you address the school board and ask a question, I'm going to answer it. Okay? And if the school board doesn't like that, well, then they can kick me off the school board, okay? I just know as a parent, as a resident of South Portland, I do not like having my time wasted. I don't like having people ignore me, okay? So anyway, I'm going to stop again, and I'll be back shortly with more thoughts on other issues, okay? Thank you.